Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another editing tutorial. So in today's video we're going to be taking a look at popular Instagrammer Samuel ELKINS and how to achieve the look that he gets in his portrait photography. So straight away we can see that he is really well known for this faded kind of look to his photos. He has really nice rich blacks in his photos and it just looks really good. So we're going to jump into Lightroom and try and replicate the style, and I'll show you guys all the settings. So just off the bat I have chosen this photo as a reference, and you can see that a common thread in all of these photos is placing the subject right in the middle with the surrounding landscape. So I'm going to be using this photo as an example. This is a shot I took of my friend Keela in a portrait shoot we did quite a while ago. So if we just look at this photo for a second, we can see that Sam likes to use a really high contrast in his photos, and I feel like he also likes to bring down the exposure quite a bit and give that really dark, moody feel to his photos. So from the start we're going to bring up the contrast to about 20-25 I think is a good level. We'll start off with that, and then we'll bring the highlights down a bit as well, bringing the shadows up to about 30. Around that level looks good to me. I think I'm going to leave the whites where they are for now. As I said earlier, the blacks, he has a really nice rich dark black in all of his pictures, so I'm going to bring the blacks down to about 40. That looks good. I'm going to leave the clarity where it is, leave the vibrance where it is. Another thing that I've noticed from his pictures is that they are all quite desaturated, and he likes to have these colors that pop out. So I'm going to bring the saturation down to about -20 would seem good for me right now. And then if we move on to the tone curve, this is where the magic really comes in and where his pictures really come alive. So I'm going to start off with a basic S curve as I do in most of my photos. I'm just going to fade the highlights a bit as well, so it's not solid white as he does in his pictures as well. As you can see, I like to edit on a white background, so you can see that difference as you can see in the sky as well. So I'm just fading the highlights a bit. I'm going to bring up the shadows as well, and what Sam does, I've seen, is he kind of crushes these blacks just a little bit. So you see how it's got this little flat tail over there? That is what I feel Samuel ELKINS does. And then he also brings down the shadows quite a bit to give that really dark feel to it. I think that might even be a bit too much though, so I'm going to bring that up to about there. And bring the fade up a bit more. Leave that around there. I think that looks good for the tone curve at the moment, so I'm going to move down to the color spectrums. And as I said already, Sam really likes to desaturate his photos. So I'm going to start off with the greens and the aquas. I'm going to bring that saturation right down to about -60. I think is good over there. I'm actually just going to switch to the HSL view so you can see all of the colors at once. We can start with the hue. I am going to bring the yellows over to a more green as well, because I feel like he has quite a bit of greens in his photos. So I'll leave that at about 30, 35, somewhere around there. If we go to the saturation, this is where it comes into play as well with the desaturation. So we're going to bring the oranges down just for the skin tone. The yellows as well can come down a bit. That can be seen in the leaves and the plants and all that kind of stuff. The aqua I'm going to bring down as well, also seen in the plants. And then lastly I'm going to bring the blues down. So already we can see that really moody, desaturated look that Samuel ELKINS achieves coming out on the photo. Another thing that's very slight but makes quite a big difference is the luminance. So I'm going to bring up the reds of the luminance. Just as you can see in her lips, it makes a big difference. So if I move this around, you can kind of see the difference it makes. So I'm just going to bring that up a bit, lighten it up. And then what's really interesting is how the green is affected here. Obviously she is surrounded by quite a bit of green, so I'm going to bring the luminance of the green up and a little bit of the yellow, because as I mentioned, plants are red as yellow for some reason on Lightroom. So I'm going to bring that up to about 10. And then lastly I'm going to bring the blues all the way up just to affect the sky a bit. So already it's looking really good, but if I go over to the reference photo that we have, we can see that there's a bit of blue split toning in the shadows as well as blue in the highlights. So I'm going to go over to the split toning section and just click on the little palette here and choose the first little light blue color that it gives you. But I think that's a bit much, so I'm going to take down the highlights to around 6. I think that looks pretty good. And as you can see as well, there is definitely some blues in the shadows, so I'm going to put blues in the shadows as well. The same color blue, but I don't think it needs to be that strong, so I think it can be very subtle. I think even 3 could be good enough. Moving on to the details, Sam, although his shots are really sharp, it still has this really soft feel to it, and that is achieved by bringing up the luminance of the photo. So I'm going to bring the luminance up to about 30, and I'm also going to bring the color up to about 25. And if we zoom in, you can see how it kind of just softens the edges of the photo and doesn't make it as sharp as it was. But what we can do again is take a radial filter, put it over her face just to make her face stand out a bit more, obviously not with the exposure down, and we can turn the clarity and sharpening up on her face just a bit. just to make it stand out and pop. And then we can add to this by using a radial filter again, but going over her eyes just so it doesn't get lost in a black hole. That sounded really bad, but it's not a black hole. So I'm going to bring the shadows up of the eyes. I think I'm also just going to bring the exposure up a little bit, and then we're going to do the same thing for the other eye as well. So just drag a circle over, bring up the exposure, bring up the shadows, and there we go. That looks really good. So if we zoom out, you can see how our eyes really start to pop out, and that is pretty much the look already. I'm not going to do anything for the lens corrections. You can turn on lens corrections if you want. The effect, Samuel Elkins doesn't use any grain at all most of the time. He uses it in some of his pictures, but for the most part he doesn't use grain. The camera calibration as well, I'm just going to leave this at a base 0 for now. And looking at the photo, I think I need to bring the exposure down just a little bit. As you can see, her face is a bit blown out. You might even need to bring the highlights down just a little bit. But overall, I think that looks pretty good, and we can go ahead and save that as a preset as well and apply it to the other photos. So what I've done now is gone to the entire photo shoot and applied this preset to all of the photos that I've taken. So you can see how this look is carried across through all of the different photographs. Obviously, these settings are just the base. Each photo will be different. Each lighting situation will be different. So I can't just apply this preset to every photo and expect it to be perfect. So overall, I think we have done a pretty good job with this photo. It's looking really nice and moody and desaturated and just goodness of Samuel Elkins. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to see any other tutorials, I'm going to be doing this weekly. Leave a comment down below of any Instagrammers you want me to take a look at and possibly make tutorials about, and how to get their kind of style. If you did like this video, please do leave a like. It means so much more than you think. Please go ahead and share this video with any of your friends that like the editing style of Samuel Elkins. I just want to say as well that I really respect Samuel Elkins as a photographer. He's probably one of my favorite portrait photographers, and I'm not trying to copy him or rip off his style. I'm just trying to share with you guys how to achieve a similar look. So again, thank you for watching. If you did like the video, please leave a like. If you are new around here, hit the subscribe button for new videos every week, and in the meantime, stay weird, don't die, and make it happen. I'll see you guys in the next one.